Hi everyone, Pocono Prepper here, and I'm making pumpkin pie today. And I just wanted to show you what I'm doing. Did you know that there's no difference in taste between a pumpkin pie pumpkin and a yellowneck squash? There's not. And did you know where I live, a yellowneck squash is a heck of a lot cheaper than a pumpkin pie pumpkin? So all of my pumpkin pies are going to be made with yellowneck squash. Now I'll tell you briefly how I do it. I take my yellowneck squash, I wrap it in aluminum foil, put them on a pan, put them in the oven at 350 degrees, and I bake it until they're squishy soft. When they're squishy soft, I then cut them in half, scoop all of the squash out, put it on a dehydrating pan, and dehydrate it. I get rid of the seeds, because if you were to take the seeds and save the seeds to use next year for planting, you have to take them out before you bake it, which means you would cut it in half, take the seeds out, save them, and then put it back together and wrap it. But since I've already baked this for an hour and a half, the seeds are no good. I didn't do that. But at an hour and a half at 350, they're not quite done. So I need to put them in again for another hour. So when they're done, I'll cut them in half, take all of the meat out of the squash, put them on my dehydrating pans on the silicone sheet, because if you don't and you spread it all out and make it nice and thin so it dehydrates well, then what happens is it gets squished through that netting on the dehydrating pan and you can't get it off. So I put it on the silicone sheet, spread it nice and thin, dehydrate it, and when it's dehydrated, I put it in my blender and I blend it up into a powder. Once it's in a powder, when I go to make pumpkin pie, I take a half a cup of the powdered yellowneck squash. I add 2 cups of boiling water to it and let it rehydrate for about 20 minutes. Once it's all rehydrated and nice and thick, then I let it cool. Once it's cool, I put it back in my blender. I add a can of condensed sweetened milk. I add 2 eggs. I add my spices, which in this case I'm adding pumpkin pie spice because I happen to have this and it's actually expired, so I want to use it up. But you could add the pumpkin pie spice, or you could do it with individual spices, your cloves, your cinnamon, your nutmeg. I will blend it all up all together, pour it into my shell, and today I'm using one of those cheater shells because I had 2 in my freezer and I want to use them up because, as you can see, it's cracking and getting old. So I will then throw that in there and I'll bake it at 425 for 15 minutes, and then I will drop the temperature to 350 and I will bake it for an additional 45 minutes, checking with a knife in the center to see that it comes out nice and clean for when it's done. Now when I'm all done doing those 4 that I have currently on my pan and dehydrating it, I will then blend it, and all of my blended powdered yellowneck squash, what I will do then is I will separate them out into individual bags, vacuum sealed bags, and I will put a half a cup into each bag. And then I will add my spices to that bag and I will vacuum seal them. Then on the outside of the bag I will put my directions that, reconstitute it with my boiling water, add my eggs and my condensed sweetened milk, and I'll put the baking times on it. And then I'll be able to put it away in storage so that if I have company or we decide we want another little bit of pie, all I have to do is grab a very lightweight bag and I can come upstairs and I can have pumpkin pie. I just think it's better than having heavy cans of pumpkin all over the place. And this way I can store those little bags of my pumpkin pie mix, and I'll have them whenever I need them. So I hope you all have a good fall, and I hope this gives you some nice ideas, and as always, have a good day.